Thank you very much. Good morning. We are not better than the White House and UNICEF, but I explain. We're just after them. So I'm French, so excuse for my accent. I know it's very common in those conferences. I tend to speak super fast to hide it. It's a trick I learned in school. I've been working in the European Parliament for 10 years, as always in the same unit, in the web communication unit. I arrived in 2004 when the European Parliament wanted to renew their website, and they called me because I was an editorial specialist, so it's all content related. Why do we communicate in 24 languages on the main European Parliament website? First, because the Article 158 of the Rules of Procedure of the Parliament states that all members have the right to speak in any of the EU official languages. The idea is that you should not have to learn a language to run for an election and to become a member of the European Parliament, and you should be able to work in your mother tongue. That concerns the citizen because the Parliament think, and I think they're right, that the citizens have the right to know. They have the right to know what's going on in the House, what is discussed, what is debated, what is decided. So in 2004, it was decided that among all the translation and publishing of all official documents in all the languages, we should have a specific news team who will communicate, which will communicate to the citizen, to the general public, in an understandable way and in 24 languages. This is our current European Parliament digital ecosystem. So at the center you have Europarl, European Parliament website in 24 languages, the think tank, and around it we are animating 12 social media platforms, some of them in English only, others, and I will show you, in 24 languages. The strategy behind that is to be where people are. The Parliament wants to be where people are exchanging, where they're debating, when they're speaking about politics. I don't know if you're familiar with social media, but for example, Facebook has become the first source of political news in the United States, before Fox News TV. That means that if you want to reach the people, you need to be where they're exchanging about politics. And people discuss a lot about EU politics on Facebook, believe me. So my team published 2 to 3 stories a day. I have 24 editors, one for each language. Today we will publish an infographics in 24 languages about forest policy of the EU. We will publish a definition of the discharge, which is a procedure about the budget, when the Parliament signs for the discharge of the budget. We will explain what it means. We will also update a dossier we have around new energy and gas. So that's the bread and butter of the unit. Every day we publish 2 to 3 stories on the website. When there is a plenary session, like this is the case, part of my team is in Strasbourg as we speak. The press unit, which is a sister unit, publishes as well all their press releases in 24 languages. And we have a specific section on the website, in the news area, where you can follow what's going on in written form in 24 languages. Of course, the streaming is in 24 languages, so you can also, if you are bored by my talk, you can now follow what the MEPs are discussing live in your languages in Strasbourg. We also have the web TV of the European Parliament, which produces daily videos, again in 24 languages with subtitles usually. Most of the stock content being the content that doesn't change, that doesn't need to be updated every day, is also in 24 languages on the website. And it is now overseen by my team because, again, the aspect of having understandable content is very important. It's not only about the fact that it exists in your language, but also that anyone should be able to understand it. We used to say that we write for my Latvian grandmother. And it's not a joke because we're in Riga. That's the real things we tell to each new member. You need to know who you're writing for, and you need to know who you're not writing for. And we're writing for general public, so we try to explain as much as possible every complicated terms or EU jargon or so on. This is a typical workflow of our daily production of news. The idea behind it is that we don't want our editors to translate, not because there's anything wrong with translation, but because we want them to produce their own story with their own flavor. And it's a different result that you obtain with this workflow. So typically the team will meet, they will discuss the topic of next week, then they will draft on Wednesday a schedule for the week to come. Then we have a huge editorial committee every Thursday with a spokesperson of the Parliament chairing it, and all editorial units are around the table, and we compare our schedule, and we assume, or we check that we are covering all the important subjects with good angles. And then on Friday, I review the schedule in front of the team so that they all know what they have to do. And one of them, or a few of them, will write a synopsis. A synopsis is at the key of our workflow. A synopsis, I will come back to it after, but it's in basic English, and that's the outline of the story. Then we have a photographer who is associated to the process so that he knows if he needs to go to take a photo of a member or what kind of photo he should bring to this thread. Me or my coordinator, we approve formally the synopsis. This is because we work in a political institution, and that it's very important that someone approves before they write, so that they know that they are covered with the content, because sometimes you can have political quotes, you can have political stance, you can have figures, and so on. So the idea behind is not as much as controlling, but protecting the editors. They know they can rely to the piece of synopsis they receive, and they can start to write. And when they write in 24 languages, they add the flavor. They will maybe change the comparison. They will maybe add a little national angle to make it more interesting. The result is that we have the story published in 24 languages the same day. Back to the synopsis. So it's a basis for all our editorial products. We claim that every language is equal. That means that our British editor, he should refrain when he writes a synopsis in using complicated words or beautiful figure of styles or anything else. I should be able to understand the synopsis without having to open a dictionary. And you can judge my English level. So the idea is no styles. It's very structured with all the facts and the quotes. And it's ready to use. It's like the script of a movie, if you prefer. And then I have 24 directors who will just shoot their own movie or write their own story based on this. This is how we work. And of course, it's a lot of work because for the writers of the synopsis, because they need to put a lot of structures, a lot of research in this piece of paper so that editors don't have to double check. They don't have to find additional information. We're a big emails fan because we communicate a lot via emails when there are some questions, and we even have a workflow to centralize all the questions about the synopsis, and then 1 hour or 2 hours after it's been delivered, there is an update with all the questions answered. Because sometimes you think it's very clear for yourself, it could be clear for me, and then an editor will think that something is not clear enough, so he will ask additional questions. That's for the main news production. The other thing we do as a unit, we're in charge of the social media for the European Parliament. Like I said, we cannot be in 24 languages on all social media, but we are on a few of them. This is our Twitteropolis map. You have various, it's like a subway or metropolitan map. So in my unit, we have 25 Twitter accounts, 1 per language, 24, plus 1 for the photographer. So that's 25 Twitter accounts that we manage centrally. But you can add the national Twitter account from each information office in the member states. The European Parliament has an office in every member state. So for example, you have Twitter Riga, which tweets in Latvian, of course, and so on. And we believe there is, well, we know there is no overexposure of followers on Twitter. At maximum, we have 20% of followers following both accounts. The Finnish one, for example, from Helsinki, and our Finnish language Twitter account. When it comes to Facebook, it's extremely difficult to animate a multilingual community on the main central page. So we use, again, the information offices as multilingual multipliers or relayers, as you prefer. So we have the central page, which has 1.6 million fans, which is third in our own league of boring international institutions. There is a UNICEF, White House, and European Parliament. We are not Rihanna, we are not Obama, but okay, it's not so bad. And then you have, for each information offices, you can find their own Facebook page in their language. And what we do is that we share our resources in the sense that everything we produce for the main central page is, of course, proposed to the information offices if they want to adapt it or to translate it or to use it. Another example is the infographics. We publish 1 infographics a week in 24 languages, and we publish them on our website, on our social media, and also on Pinterest, because it's a nice way to classify them. Pinterest is a very visual platform. So, for example, this is one of the few infographics in Latvian that we published recently. And finally, we created a few years ago what we call the EP News Hub, epnewshub.eu. This is a different platform. It aggregates live everything that the members of the European Parliament put online, whether it's a Twitter, Facebook, a video, their blog, whatever. It comes all in the EP News Hub, and you can filter, of course, by languages, by topics, by members, by nationality, and so on. The idea is to give access to the pulse of the Parliament, a direct access to what the political voice of the Parliament are saying at a certain time, which is right now. And that's it for me. Thank you very much.